So in the last recording, we've talked about the basic structure of the Lewis model, and we have also talked about the assumptions. Now let's look at the working of the model. So in this panel, I have drawn two curves. I'll be drawing two curves, basically the total product curve in the agricultural sector and the average product and the marginal product curve of labor in the agricultural sector. So there are two sectors here. One is the agricultural sector, and another is the industrial sector. So you need to be patient enough because this is one of the most important topic. And in most of the papers, there'll be at least one question on Lewis model, right? So I hope you will write alongside me. So there is a curve which is going to come in this sector. So you have the total product curve like this, and it will become flattened out at some point, right? Let's say at this particular point, it flattens out. So this is the total product curve in the agricultural sector with the given amount of capital. So this is the amount of the total product which you have. This is TPA. This is TPA, right? So the point is that this total product curve, it flattens out at LA. And at this particular point, the marginal product is going to be zero. So you have the average product curve, and you have the marginal product. Right? You have the average product curve and the marginal product curve. And when the total product curve is flattening out, that is with the more amount of labor, there is no addition to the total product. It means at that particular point, margin product is zero, right? So you might also want to write one line. This is also important, beta. So you have TPA curve. Flattens at LA, right? Here, MPLA is zero. Also, APLA is greater than MPLA. And the other thing is that total product in agricultural sector upon the number of laborers which are employed, that is going to give you the wage in the agricultural sector. Achha, what is total product upon labor? That is nothing but the average product of labor. And this is the wage, because that wage is equally divided among all the laborers, right? So this is also going to give you the amount of the wage in the agricultural sector. I hope the points are clear till this point. So this is the traditional sector, agricultural sector. Traditional sector or agricultural sector. Or agricultural sector. Now comes your this guy, your industrial sector. So let me just draw the another panel here from the industrial sector. So you have total product in the manufacturing sector or the industrial sector. This is the labor which is employed in the in the manufacturing sector. And this is the amount, this is the way you are going to draw the total product in manufacturing sector. And that is dependent upon this much amount of capital. So initially, manufacturing sector is starting with a less amount of capital. Initially, manufacturing sector is starting with the lesser amount of capital, right? So here you have QLM here. So basically it is your demand for labor, or you can say wage in the manufacturing sector. Wage in the manufacturing sector. So one thing you have to understand is that from here, I will get the wage. I will get the wage in the agricultural sector. One thing. This is the wage which is given in the agricultural sector. Now, if I want to attract people from the agricultural sector to work in the manufacturing sector, I will have to give higher wage to them. There is no other way, right? So I will have to give higher wage to them. Let me just imagine that this is WM, which is little higher than the subsistence wage WA. WM, so the industrial sector, manufacturing sector is giving little higher wage than the agricultural sector, so that surplus labor from the agricultural sector could be attracted towards the industrial sector, right? And you can see the demand curve for labor is the downward sloping curve. This is what the demand curve for labor is, right? So it is D1, KM1, right? And that is equal to the marginal product of labor. So you know this, that हमने पिछली बार भी करा था, that MPL has to be equal to W by P, right? MPL has to be equal to W by P, where so labor demand is determined by the MPL, marginal product of labor, in the industrial sector. So you are going, industrial sector is going to employ till where? Till this point. Initially, this is the amount of labor which is going to be employed. This is the amount of labor which is going to be employed. And this is D1, D1. This is point F. This is point F. You with me? So the amount of total output which is generated is how much? ODF L1. So if you are employing L1 amount of labor, the total output which is generated in the industrial sector is ODF L1. How much wages you are paying for L1 amount of labor? OWMF L1. So this is the amount of profits which you have. This is the amount of profits which you have. And you're going to invest these profits back into the business. The moment you're going to invest these profits back into the business, basically what does it mean is that this is going to shift the total product curve also. So please write this. Profits are fully reinvested. So when profits are fully reinvested, this is your capital stock is going to increase, right? Capital stock is going to increase. So this is going to shift the production function up. Right? This is going to shift the production function up now with a new amount of capital. And the thing is that the moment production function is, I mean, you have more capital with you. So it means that you can also demand more labor, right? So the demand curve for labor is also going to shift outwards. Demand curve for labor is also going to shift outwards. So basically, with more amount of capital, the marginal product of the labor is also going to increase, because I hope you know this, that the labor and capital, they are cooperative factors. So if the productivity of one is going to increase, it is going to increase the productivity of the other. So you give more capital to labor, the productivity of the labor is going to increase. And if the MPL is going to increase, then definitely demand curve for labor will also increase, right? So this is your D2, D2. ये पॉइंट भी आप लिखोगे, that is this guy. The larger ये पॉइंट भी आप लिखोगे, that with an increase in capital, total product is going to increase, total product is going to shift up, and there will be rise in the marginal product MPL. So demand curve for labor is going to increase, right? And with the new demand curve, and the wages are given to you as WM only, you're going to employ how much labor? This much, L2. So what is the total output with L2 amount of labor which you're going to have? D2, D2O, D2G, L2. And the amount of wages which you're going to give for L2 amount of labor is OWMG L2. So what is the profit now? This much. So your profits are again going to be reinvested back into the business, right? And with more profits, the amount of capital is going to increase. Amount of capital is going to increase. With more capital, productivity of labor is going to increase. It means the demand curve for labor is going to increase. With more demand for labor, actually your demand curve is going to shift out like this. So it is D3, D3 at this labor, your K, at the higher amount of capital. So this is H. This is L3. This is L3, right? So now what happens is that, see, there is a point, of course, with the higher amount of demand for labor, with the higher MPL, I mean, you have the higher amount of labor which is going to be employed, which is completely fine, right? So we are going to assume that there will be some point at which all the surplus labor in the what do you call traditional sector has already been employed in the modern industrial sector. So from where you're going to get the surplus labor? From here. So अगर कोई labor is not adding to the total product, तो वो surplus labor ही है ना. So हम पहले उस surplus labor को ही use कर रहे थे ना. All of this was a surplus labor. ये जो भी MPL 0 के बाद वाला labor है, that is a surplus labor. लेकिन कोई एक ऐसा point तो आएगा ना when all the surplus labor has already been employed in the agricultural sector. Sorry, in the industrial sector, right? So eventually, you can write somewhere. Eventually, if I'll write it nicely here. So this was the modern sector or manufacturing sector or industrial sector, whatever you want to name. There is something which is called Lewis turning point. There is something which is called Lewis turning point. So what is Lewis turning point? So eventually, all surplus labor which was there in the agricultural sector, it has already been employed. Eventually, all surplus labor get exhausted. eventually all surplus labor gets exhausted. So अगर अब तुम you employ more labor from the agricultural sector, then the total output in the agricultural sector is going to fall, right? So any further withdrawal of labor from agriculture reduces food output. अब ये बात क्यों लिखी जा रही है? You have to understand one thing, that earlier when this surplus labor was there, and how do you define surplus labor? Because this labor is not adding anything to the total output in the food sector, in the agricultural sector. So even if you employ this surplus labor in the industrial sector, this is not going to reduce the output. This is not going to reduce the output in the agricultural sector. But now, because all agricultural labor, surplus labor has already been employed in the industrial sector, if you again going to pull more labor from the agricultural sector to be employed in the industrial sector, then the output in the agricultural sector is going to fall, right? So now, so it means that now if you're going to add, after all surplus labor in the agricultural sector has been eliminated, now if you add more labor in the agricultural sector, this is going to, so the MPL is going to become positive in the agricultural sector. Now, MPL, तो यहां तक तो MPL जीरो था बेटा, इस पॉइंट के बाद तो MPL जीरो था ना, ये सारे के सारे लेबर में MPL जीरो था, but now MPL becomes positive. But now MPL becomes positive, right? So now what happens is, earlier the labor supply, which was horizontal, right? Now it becomes upward sloping. जैसे इस पॉइंट के बाद मान लीजिए हम अज्यूम कर रहे हैं, वी आर गोइंग टू अज्यूम दैट लेट्स से एट L3 the all surplus labor which was there in the agricultural sector was already employed in the industrial sector. After this, if you want to employ more labor, then the labor supply becomes just like this. So labor supply, if you just have understand it this way, so it was horizontal till this point, and after the lowest turning point, it becomes like this. It was horizontal till this point, and after the lowest turning point, it becomes like this, right? So please write this. Labor supply curve curve. In the industrial sector, becomes positive, right? Becomes positively sloped, and not perfectly elastic. Not perfectly elastic as before. So, agar ab you want to attract more labor from the agricultural sector to the industrial sector, you have to give them higher wages. There is no other way to attract more wages. Sorry, to attract more workers. urban wages must rise. Urban wages must rise, right? So if you look at it carefully, your so this is where the structural transformation has been complete. This is where the structural transformation has been complete. I want to write one more line so that you get this right. So initially, you have assumed that this curve at this wage WM, the labor supply curve is horizontal because you have the unlimited supply of the surplus labor, right? You can लिख लो बेटा. I want you to write it somewhere when you were drawing the horizontal labor supply curve. So this WM wage was given to attract, which was more than the subsistence wage, to attract workers from the agricultural sector. I wanted to write this line. So, right, this WMSL is the horizontal labor supply curve. ये बीच में लिखना था ये मैंने I forgot to put this point earlier. Horizontal labor supply curve. Right. So as rural as supply of rural labor, supply of rural labor is assumed to be unlimited. So if you have unlimited labor supply, you do not have to give them higher wages. You just set the wage, and if they want to work on that, they want to work. I mean, they will not even demand more wages. You're already giving them more wages than the agricultural sector. Why will they demand more? But after a point when the all surplus labor has already been employed in the in the industrial sector, now you have to give higher wages. बीच में लिखना है वाला point. Write this points in between when you were talking about this thing. And then you will end this at this point. The economy enters a new phase. At the Lewis turning point. Labor markets begin to function competitively. Labor markets begin to function competitively. Real wages rise, and the structural transformation is complete. The structural transformation is considered complete. Is considered complete. Right? So it's like a dominance of industry over the agriculture, and this is the foundation for the sustained economic growth. Fair enough. I hope it was useful to you. So you'll make notes properly. of this thing from the reading also. So thank you, Beta.